Hey, good morning. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind this morning. I had a few things to do, and I even got a big mug of coffee today because I need it. Got a few things to go over. I hope it doesn't go too long, so I don't want to keep you all from your morning routine or whenever you watch it. It won't take too long. Lots to talk about, I think. I want to kind of lead by saying again, it's like about believing things and bringing stuff out right away as soon as you hear it. I mean, for the most part, if you're still listening to mainstream media to get your news, you're not getting the whole truth. If you're lucky, you're getting 17%. Um, most of how I get my news is I look at it. I look at everything. I don't watch mainstream. I get a lot. I admit I get a lot of stuff from X because a lot of the people that I follow actually do the research. They get down and get their hands dirty. They dig. Um, that being said, there are still quite a few people out there, and I want to pick on two separate sets of people. I want to pick on one the influencers that are big and that have gotten lazy and they put out what they think is going on without going out. I mean, if you guys have followed us from way back in the day when we had a show called the 40,000 Foot View, um, that that was like a deep dive, pretty much a deep dive show. Okay, and we didn't put information out on there as soon as we got it. We would vet it and verify that information. That was one of our more popular shows. But the other well, now I'm kind of getting off track. So influencers, some are getting a little lazy, and some are not doing the research, and they're getting research from other people that you probably shouldn't be getting your research from. I'm not going to go into specifics, and I'm not going to name anybody in particular on any of these, but I just want people to understand that if you really want to get caught up to what's really going on in the world today, you have to use some discernment and you have to dig and you have to look at things from higher up. Because if you're zoomed in close on something, you only see what's going on there. If you zoom out to 40,000 feet, you get the big picture. You get to see everything. Okay, and it allows you to be able to put some pieces together a little bit better because it doesn't leave you stuck on one thing. And what happens then is people get really upset about what's being reported or what's being researched on this one particular thing and don't realize that it's connected to a lot of other things at the same time. And there's a reason for a lot of that. Okay, and first let me anybody out there that's bashing President Trump right now and saying that he or his administration need to do better or they're turning there's people out there that are even saying that Trump is the antichrist. It's like, come on, people, get real. I understand you're pissed off. I understand that you don't feel like things are happening fast enough, but we're talking decades, century that we have been put into what we're living in right now, and you can't take and fix that in one term or maybe two terms as a president. Okay, so Trump came in 2016. He started making a lot of changes, and we were finding out. Okay, these are the people that are causing the crap that we're going through. Okay. So President Trump's first term was spent fighting lawfare. Okay. The bad people knew that they had to do whatever they could do to keep him out because he was going to take them down. And if y'all remember, Hillary Clinton, back when she went off, that if we don't stop this guy, we're all going to hang by the necks. Now, I just paraphrased that, but you all know which one I'm talking about. Okay. So that's the influencer part. Now, we've got some ex-military people out there. They might still have connections. They might not. I don't know. But they're doing the same thing. They're looking at one single incident and they're not looking at the big picture. Okay, we learned way back when that we have to look at things from the 40,000-foot view. Okay, that way you can get the big picture. But we've got military people out there that used to do. I'm talking special operators that used to go out there and they would infiltrate in with the local people and they would either share information with them or they would they would pay them off to be on their side or be on our side. Okay, so they were red pilling, they were black, they were using the whole playbook. Okay, but thing is they were only in their one little area doing their one little thing and they didn't even know the big picture about what was going on. They were just dealing with their little infiltration with the indigenous people that were in that location. Okay, and they do that a few times and then maybe when they come out of being a special operator and then they might go to work for the CIA, they see another level of it. Okay, and then they kind of see that, well, maybe there was something else going on. But for those that didn't move up and that just got out and they're doing their thing now, they're using their special operator status as a way to get followers, clickbait, and kind of lead people astray. I started watching a video last night, and this is somebody that I followed for a while because I thought, he might be. A lot of the things that he talked about are pretty good, but when it gets into geopolitics and things like that, he goes back to his woke stuff. And it's funny because within the first 5 to 8 minutes of listening to somebody, I can tell right away that they're just not they're not in their right mind, or they don't see the big picture. They don't know what's going on. All right, so let me get off that soapbox. I wanna hit on Hurricane Melissa, and then we're gonna zoom out from there. We're gonna actually look at what's going on in the area. Okay. But let me just jump back to the last thing with some of the influencers that are out there, whether they be ex-military or big influencer accounts. They're out there pushing that the only reason that we're going into Venezuela is for the oil. It has nothing to do with the drugs and the drug war. Well, it's not just the drug war, but I can guarantee you that it's not the oil, it's not the minerals, it's not the gold. Maduro offered President Trump every one of those things, and Trump turned him down. Okay? So there is something that's going on there that's twofold. And we're gonna find out that it's probably worse than that. Okay. Um so we now have like a whole carrier group and then some in the Caribbean. And at the same time, they're tracking this hurricane that's coming called Melissa. Okay, so we're there for the public's knowledge as part of the war on drugs. Okay, and then the other thing that would kind of throw people off too is when they put out the $50 million bounty on Maduro's head. So then they could start saying regime change. Okay, Lindsey Graham was on, I think it was CBS or ABC the other day, and he said, "Yep, it's a regime change." That's what, and he was like, because they asked him, "Is it for a regime change?" He goes, "Yep." So we all know that Lindsey Graham is one of the warmongers out there. He's a rhino, and this guy gets off on people dying. Okay, so believe it or not, the whole SNAP food stamp thing kind of fits into this too. Okay, but I'll get to that, and then hopefully you can kind of weave this together and kind of come up with the picture. I'll try to put it together as best I can so you can understand it. As I get older, my ADD or ADHD kind of throws me off a little bit. I never took medicine in my entire life for it, but I'm finding now that I sort of can go off track a little bit, and I have to work really hard to stay on track. So that being said, let me pop on over to. I gotta let's see here. I have to get the right screen. All right. So first of all, and I gotta switch over to there. All right. So first off, let's talk about the auto pen. Okay. We're not gonna watch the video, but um, they were talking about this has come out big, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper into just what this article is saying about Hunter Biden being one of the people deciding who got auto pen pardons. Well, they did a congressional hearing over the last few days, and they actually subpoenaed quite a few members of Biden's staff, and they had to speak before Congress, and they were asked about Biden's cognitive skills and if he was in the right mind. So before they went to Congress, they were putting stuff out like the guy's got a brilliant mind. You could listen. You could listen to all of the Democrats that were asked about it. Oh, he's so brilliant. It's hard to keep up with him. This guy is always on the move. But what we saw on TV with Biden, we saw the guy falling upstairs. We saw his brain locking up in the middle of talking to the press numerous times. The guy was not there. Okay, if that was even Biden. Okay, so now we get everybody, well, not everybody, but quite a few people from his staff, even his press secretary. She put out the most damning information that they were basically afraid to let him uh, go out and speak to the media because they were afraid of what he was going to say or what he was going to do. I mean, when you go to meet the Pope and you poop your pants, yeah, something's not right. Okay, I'm just saying. I'll, little things will come to mind and I'll bring it out. So now the DOJ has come out and basically said that all of those pardons should be null and void because of the auto pen, and that even if Biden did sign any of them, he wasn't in his right mind to do so. But we're finding out that it was his staffers that were doing it. Hunter Biden, even his press secretary. There's even stuff out there too about Michelle Obama signing into the White House and going into the West Wing unaccompanied, and what she was in there signing stuff too. They're saying, okay, because all of a sudden there was all these pardons and things that were being signed off that Biden wasn't even there for. Okay, so this is all this is if you can grasp what this means. Okay, on the simple side of it, it means that everything that Biden said or did during the time that he was deemed not in his right mind and they were covering for him, everything from that point to the end of his so-called presidency is null and void. Think about that. Think about the the judges and other people that were put in certain positions. Okay, so for example, like Letitia James, it doesn't even matter now that, I mean, she will still get but she's going to get more on her. Okay, the people that accepted the pardons, now we're going to have all their lawsuits back on them again. The people that started these lawsuits, like Letitia James, going against Trump, all this fraudulent stuff, all these people are going to go down. If you look at the magnitude of all the people that were involved in all of that, um, I guess the best way to explain it is that it's going to be a shit show. Okay, and these people are afraid, and then you're going to ask, well, how do they know? How do you know that these people are actually guilty and that they shouldn't have got pardons? FISA works both ways. Okay, they use FISA on Trump. They didn't change any of the rules, so they turned back around and they're using FISA on all these people. Okay, and when you can take and do surveillance of people legally using the FISA system. I'm not saying that when they legally did it with Trump that it was legal. Then they had cockamamie charges, things that weren't real. But in this case, this is all real stuff, and all of these people were then able to be monitored. And so their phones, all of a sudden, they're making phone calls to their attorneys. They're talking to other people. They're saying, "Hey, if you don't cover me, I'm telling them everything. If you can't cover my ass and protect me on this, I'm gonna sing like a bird." Okay. Again, when do cage birds sing? So that is going to be so huge. Okay, that people have to understand it's not just, oh, he's his auto pen signed some stuff and that's it. No, but if when people realize that everybody and everything that was involved in not just the pardons, but the other things that Biden signed, if like anything that were pertaining to law, any appointments that were made, like to judges and to other people that were in certain positions within the government, it all becomes null and void, and everything that came after that is null and void. It goes away. Okay. Remember when they talked about an avalanche, the D5? This is, in my opinion, the auto pen is the avalanche. It's the D5. I hope I hope that starts to make sense for y'all. Okay. All right. So keeping that in mind, we're going to move on. I tried to put these in some kind of an order so I don't have to bounce all over the place. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what's going on with Ukraine, and this isn't like the whole picture of Ukraine, but I know enough I can talk about Ukraine. But what's interesting is Ukrainian President Zelensky. Not only did he just recently make this purchase of the Pathfinder Ranch in Wyoming, he also owns some very nice, expensive houses in Florida. Okay, so I think because of the executive orders that Trump signed, that were people that are involved in human trafficking or crime, the child trafficking, any crimes against humanity. Well, Vladimir Zelensky is 100% involved. Why do you? I'm telling you right now, that's the reason that Russia went to war with them, because of the child. Number one was the child trafficking. Okay, people don't realize that Vladimir Putin and Russia are Orthodox Christian. They don't allow gays and the trannies to openly do their thing. They're like, hey, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it, but you're not getting any notoriety and you're not getting any special shit just because you wanna be gay or you wanna be trans or you wanna be whatever. Okay, but they've outlawed anything for no none of that trans surgery, none of that shit. Okay, Russia, Russia is right down to it Christian. Okay, and I'm not saying that Putin is an angel, but I will tell you that Russia is an ally of the United States. Okay, so is China, and so is India, and so are a lot of other countries. But right now, we are going up against the people that are left, the ones that are left fighting over in Europe. There's some of these EU countries. I can tell you that Italy is free. I can tell you for the most part that the UK is almost free. Um, the monarchy is down. It's gone. It's done. Um, but where we still got to clean up the trash in the UK is in their parliament and with this Keir Starmer guy. I mean, if anybody wants to give anybody the tag of the Antichrist, I would say it would be Keir Starmer. This guy is allowing some very egregious, evil stuff to go on in the UK right now. But anyway, back on Ukraine. Okay, we do know, and I don't know if it was done on purpose. I don't know if it like an accident, but Marco Rubio, when he was when he was in Congress, or they had the congressional hearing, and they had Victoria Nuland. She was being questioned about Ukraine and any involvement that we had in Ukraine, and she let it slip out that the reason that we wanted to have our people there was because of the biolabs that we've invested in and we built. I do have, it might take me a moment here. Okay, let me just switch to my other screen. But I have a map, and I think it's important that everybody sees this map. So just give me a second to bring this up. It won't take me long. I just gotta. We'll just do this and then do this, and it's supposed to bring me right to where my images are. But all right, we'll get there. But I think this is very important that people can see this map. Now I have a couple. I have two maps, but one is better than the other because it's got a better legend to it. Yeah, here's the better one. Okay, so you should all be able to see that. Okay, I might have to move it around a little bit so you can see the legend. But everywhere that there is either a red or purple dot on this map of Ukraine, those are bio labs. Okay, and at the time, those are the ones that everybody knew about. But we're finding out that there were more of them. There were up to as many as like 28 total. Okay, but I want to just scroll this picture up. It's kind of a longer picture. It says these laboratories are located in Odessa, Vinnytsia, Uzhgorod, Lviv, Kiev, Kherson, Ternopil, Crimea, Luhansk, Kharkiv, and Mykolaiv. The one that bothers me is the one in Vinnytsia. That's where my fiance lives right now, and Vinnytsia actually got hit pretty hard last night. But from what she told me, it seemed far away, and I they didn't experience a power outage there, so I'm thinking that maybe the Vinnytsia lab got hit. And Vinnytsia is like, if you can see my mouse, it's like right here. Okay, so let me get rid of that. So anyway, going back to, So what I'm trying to get at is anything that Zelensky bought here in the United States is going to be repossessed by the United States government, and it's going to go back out um, to the appropriate people or places. Okay, and now everybody's worried about, oh, what about all the land that China bought and all these other countries? Um, China was also involved, and not, I mean, let's just say they're deep state, and their deep state people own businesses and real estate companies and all kinds of things like that. So those were the people that actually bought farmland and factories and the meat plants and stuff like that in the United States. Those are all going to be repossessed from them, taken from them. So China owns a lot in the United States, and from what I understand, China owns most of Hollywood, the whole movie industry. Okay, so when the executive order stuff starts kicking in, we'll start seeing it. But I want everybody to look from the 40,000 foot view. And when they say, well, I think I'm trying to remember. I think it was like New York or New Jersey or someplace. Just recently, they were talking about China buying up this land. They wanted to build this factory there, but the people said no. They voted on it, and now the factory can't be built. But China still paid multiple times more for the land than what it was actually worth, so they could get it. But now they've got this land, they can't do anything with it. That land is going to actually be repatriated back to where it was before, or to the federal government if the people that sold the land are found to be in on it. If you understand what I mean. So I think all the times that Trump has had Zelensky here in the United States, um, I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but every time Zelensky comes, he whines like a little bitch, asking for this. We need more weapons. We need more of this. Last time he was here, he even got a little snippy with the reporters. Okay. But then he leaves here and he goes back to Ukraine and he's talking up President Trump, but that lasted about a week. Okay. He's not saying anything negative, but he talked it up and he said, yeah, we're still working on the tomahawks and yada yada. Trump is not going to give tomahawks to Ukraine. And he's not going to sell anymore to any of the EU countries for them to supply them. By the time this all comes around, there was like a couple of year timeline on this, but excuse me. There's other things that are happening now that I think we're gonna start seeing an end to the whole war in Ukraine here pretty soon. Anyway, but just so everybody understands, the people of Ukraine are good people. They're the pawns in this. They're the ones that are suffering. It's everyone that's in that government. And I mean, I read through their news every day. Every morning I get up and I go sit out on my front porch, get my morning sun, and I read the news about everything that's going on in Ukraine. And there is so much corruption. And I mean, there's people right now that they're being arrested for things that probably aren't corrupt, but these people probably know something about these people in the government that is corrupt. So they're trying to get them out of the public view. All right, so moving on. Now we're still up at 40,000 feet. All right, we talked about Melissa yesterday. Okay, so when we talked yesterday, I said, hey, we got to keep an eye on what's going on with Melissa. So when we first started hearing about Melissa and they were showing us the track of Melissa, it was headed right into the Gulf of America. It was supposed to hit Florida, Texas, Louisiana, and it was supposed to, because of the warm air that's there, they said that it would actually be higher than a category 5. They didn't have a name for it. Okay, that it would be like this mega hurricane or whatever. But we started noticing, if you look at the track here, um, I don't want to make this full screen. Well, maybe I'll make it full screen. Let's make it full screen so we can see the track. But if you look at that white squiggly line on the bottom over here, it's almost like the hurricane got really drunk. Okay, so what that tells me is that there's weather manipulation going on, but there's weather manipulation going on from both sides. Because if it was just left alone, they would have tracked through the area where our naval forces are at off the coast of Venezuela, and then it would have moved up slightly, and then it would have hit the Gulf of America. Okay, so that would have created havoc for our Navy, having a Cat 5 plus hurricane going right over the top of them. Now let's go back to the drunk jiggly lines. That's the track that this took. It was a steering force trying to push it where the deep state wanted it to go, and then the good guys were pushing back. Okay, and then eventually, when we get up here, you see that this thing took like almost a whole 90-degree turn and went up and went over Jamaica. And I'm going to make this small again. So it went up over Jamaica. And now it's over Guantanamo Bay. Okay, so this here is showing, this doesn't show the squiggly track up close, but this tracks it over Jamaica. And the interesting thing is that it's going to go over on Cuba, but it's supposed to be down to like a Cat 2 by then. It's going to go right over Gitmo. So there's some weather modification stuff going on here, like what we'll call it their weapons of war. They're using it for war because I think the deep state wanted to take out the United States Navy that was sitting off the coast of Venezuela. Okay. And then to finish it off, to make a huge catastrophe, because that's what Chuck Schumer was talking about the other day. He said, "Oh, and now Trump cut U.S. aid, so now when the hurricane hits Florida, Texas, and all of these states inside the Gulf, then we don't have anybody there because the government shut down, so there won't be FEMA." Okay, so think of that. So it's almost like Chucky knew in advance that this hurricane was going to hit in the Gulf of America, and it was going to do a lot of damage and affect all of that area. Okay, only the good guys win again. It gets turned to the right, away from the Navy, away from the United States, and basically Jamaica took a hit. And from what I understand, that is more of a less populated area, but an area where people could have evacuated more easily over further east. But then Cat 2 hits Guantanamo Bay, which, the people that are housed in Guantanamo, they're the really bad criminals anyway. So, and it's a Cat 2. Okay, it's just a really strong storm by then. So we know that the weather modification is being used, and the good guys won. That protected the Navy. All right. So now, let me come back. Over to here. I want to get rid of this first. my ugly mug. All right, so now we're going to take a look at why it was so important to make sure that that hurricane didn't hit over by Venezuela. And well, number one, it's because of our Navy, and now the USS, what was it? The Gerald R. Ford is there now. It's an aircraft carrier. So we pretty much have a whole carrier group stationed right off Venezuela. And we're going to bounce back to what I was first talking about influencers looking at one little thing and not zooming out, okay, not getting the big picture. So all these little things that are going on are affecting what's going on there. And I can tell you right now, we're not the, I already said it, we're not there for the oil, we're not there for the gold, we're not there for the minerals. Okay, we might have a really good partnership with Venezuela when the new president that replaces Maduro comes in. Yeah, we're going to do a regime change, most likely. Most likely. I'm not going to guarantee it, but you don't put a $50 million bounty on a guy's head for nothing. All right. So they were talking about boots on the ground. I don't think we need to put boots on the ground, and here's why. Okay, I've talked about Wagner Group um, in past videos. You probably haven't seen them all, but Wagner Group is basically they're basically a mercenary group that was formed out of Russia. Okay, it had Russians, and I think there were some Ukrainians that were even part of that as well. But there was some stuff that went on in the Middle East. There was a oil refinery that the United States had control of, but there was a race to it. The United States made it there first, but Wagner Group was going as well because they wanted to control it. But then what ended up happening is up some. I'm gonna have to find the documentary that I watched. It was actually, if you guys get a chance and go look at Sean Ryan, he did an interview with um, one of the guys from Wagner Group that explained the whole thing. But they were basically given an order to go ahead and take it from the Americans. But the problem is they didn't real. Even though, see, Americans, we can have a smaller force of people. That's how badass our military is. We can have a smaller force of people that can hold off a very large group of people. Now, I want to say the Wagner Group people had like 200 to 220 people, and they lost quite a few. They took a lot of casualties, and they ended up not being able to do anything at all. Okay, but then it came out that the United States just had a firefight with Russian supported uh, or personnel. I'm just going to call them personnel because they're not Russian military. So that came out, and that almost turned into a huge controversy. But what ended up happening, the Wagner Group guys that were still alive after that, they dispersed all over the Middle East. They went and lived their own lives. They couldn't go back to Russia, that's for sure. But now we find out through some leaked stuff the other day, and some stuff made it to the press, that a contingent of Wagner Group flew into Venezuela and is in Venezuela right now. Wagner Group, they didn't have a lot of people there, okay? But my thoughts on this are that Wagner Group is not there to fight with Americans, and they're not there to keep Americans off the ground. They might be one of the forces. Maybe I'm just thinking off the top of my head because I'm looking at histories. I'm kind of trying to bring in the whole big picture. Okay. So we're gonna assume a little bit that Wagner Group is there to pass intel. Okay, so Russia and Venezuela just signed a new support pact thing. Um, you never know. You never know what could happen out of that. Okay, but I'm just saying, keep an eye on that. You look at the whole region. Throat's getting dry. Time for coffee. So, as far as troops on the ground in Venezuela, remember how I said that our military, our special operations guys are so good that you would never even know that they were there? I mean, if they were let to go to their own resources and they're told, hey, you guys need, this is your objective, this is what you need to do, they could get in there and get out of there, take care of everything, and nobody would know that they were even there until the buildings started getting blown up or whatever, okay? Or until the next morning when they go to get the president, Maduro, for his press briefing and he's not in his room. And he's back in the United States in our custody. Okay, that's how good our special operators are. All right. So, now I just got to go back. I know I had a few other things that were over here that I wanted to go over. That was just some more of the drunk tracking of the hurricane here. Let's see. Okay, so 3i Atlas. Okay, I think this whole thing is a hoax. They're coming out and they're saying all this. It's like they have all this information. I mean, listen, guys, this thing supposedly is behind the sun or coming from around the sun, and it was so far away. The best picture that they could get of it looks kind of like a little bit of a brighter star. The stuff that you're seeing come out on social media, all that is what do they call it? A microscope with an amoeba swimming through some saline solution or something with a bright light in the back to light up any particles to make it look like it's stars. Okay, they're using AI and all kinds of stuff here to make us all think that, oh, we've got some new stuff. Now we're detecting these mysterious pulses coming out. They broadcast at 1420 megahertz. That's the cosmic hailing frequency that SETI uses. Come on, people. Okay? I'm going to put what I believe biblically out there. Okay? And I'm sure that a lot of people that watch this channel with me, if they didn't before, they believe it now. But if you actually read the Bible, and the Bible says in Genesis, talking about how God created the earth, if you kind of look at it a little bit, he actually had to recreate it because he had already created it before, but what was there it was left barren after he destroyed or they destroyed it or whatever, but he basically recreated the earth. Okay, and then this time around he's putting some protection there, so we've got a firmament above and protects us from, the way I understand it, is like our outer space on the other side of the firmament is water. Okay, the firmament below is the ground that we walk on. Okay, but then underneath that firmament are where they talk about the waters below in the depths. Okay, so that's Sheol. We have a firmament. Now, if people say, like, okay, if we take the globe and we make it, we get the whole flat Earth picture. So what it does is that then what they shows us is that Antarctica is actually an ice ring that goes around our perimeter, and then there's a dome above it like that that makes our known Earth inside of a like a snow globe. I don't think that's it. I think when they talk about the planets, okay, so there's the moon, and then you've got Mars and Venus and Uranus and Saturn and Jupiter and all the planets. I think those are all terrestrial, and that our planet, if you take the T off, we're a plane. It's a realm, or it's basically a giant plane that's got the different realms in it. Okay. And I think that our realm has this dome over it, but there's ways to get through that if you hit the right places at the ice wall. Okay. I can't prove it, but there's so much stuff that's out there. People that are putting some of this stuff out, they either have just wild, vivid, crazy imaginations, or they really do have maps and bits of information that they've recreated, because some of the stuff that they put out is like mind blowing. Okay. I mean, do I believe it? I put stuff on the back shelf. Okay. I don't disprove anything until I can absolutely prove it false or prove it true. Um, but I feel that God isn't going to put us into an infinite universe that we would never know, okay, until after we die. Then we can ascend up through the second heaven into the third heaven where God reigns from, and then we are now part of all of that on the outside. We'll have that, but we also will have access to this whole plane of existence that we're on right now. Okay, so I think that's what we've got. Why would certain organizations like UNESCO and some of these other places, the Smithsonian, why do they go and erase history? Okay, I've talked about this in other videos on all of my channels. Like if you go look at my Lifting the Veil series, you'll see some stuff on there. Why did they erase Tartaria? Okay, there are globes and there are maps out there that show that Tartaria was a real place. And then somewhere around 1776, in the late 1700s, we ended up having a reset. Okay, and this leads off in a whole bunch of different ways, and I'm not going to go into all of them right now, but there's so many things out there. If you guys go look up a bunch of stuff on the Little Season, that's because of the whole rewrite of history. So, like in 1607 is when the first settlers came to the United States. They settled in Virginia. Okay, in 1607. And then we're talking like 170 years later, we're having the Revolutionary War. Okay, so we had more people coming over here. Not huge amounts, but more. We haven't even gone west yet to go settle the western parts of the United States. But one thing to go look into is like who drew the map of the United States and who made all the boundaries for all of the states within the United States. Go look that up. And then you look at some of the videos that I put up, but I think My Lunch Break, MLB, does a much better explanation of these old world buildings and how these things were already here when our settlers were just coming. Okay, we didn't have enough people here to build cathedrals that intricate. Just look at St. Patrick's Cathedral. And where's that, in Philadelphia, I believe. We Philadelphia was the capital of the United States for a while there. Okay, we didn't have enough people here to build a cathedral that big, much less that intricate, when the homes that we were building were log cabins. Okay, so you got to kind of use your brain a little bit and say, okay, so we know that a lot of this stuff was here. Every single Capitol building in the United States. I'll use the one from where I used to live, Madison, Wisconsin. The state capitol, the Capitol building, was there before anybody even settled in what we know today as the state of Wisconsin. Okay, so I'm not going to go deep on that. This is not a deep dive into that. My point is that we've been lied to for our entire lives. We need to break free from that and learn how to get out there and think on our own, use our own brain, use our own discernment to find things out. If that means getting your hands dirty and doing some digging in the dirt and getting some research done, then do that. I tell you, you end up more at peace knowing that the best is really yet to come, people. Okay? The best is really yet to come. If you jump off we'll call it the proverbial Trump train, because it really pains me that people are jumping ship on President Trump after everything that he's done. Come on, people. He stopped 8 wars. He's trying to stop the 9th one. Yeah, the stuff going on in the little I country in the Middle East. We knew that was going to be a difficult, tumultuous thing, but it'll get settled. But anybody that's dumping on Trump and has jumped ship, I feel sorry for you guys, because that tells me one thing, that you guys were always a never Trumper. You were there to divide from the get go. Prove me wrong, okay? We've got some really good things that are going to happen, but I just hope that people don't. I mean, yeah, you're going to hear some things that are going to tick you off. Okay, you're going to get really pissed. But if you take that, step away, look into it a little bit. I mean, most of the stuff that's put out there is to purposely trigger you. Okay, most of that stuff, that angry stuff, that's still got Obama's fingerprint all over it. All right. He's the one that made it legal for the propaganda to work. Well, now that Trump's in charge, he's using that propaganda to do it reverse. But you got to remember, this guy read The Art of War 5 or 6 times. He knows this book inside and out. He even wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. So trust the guy. Okay, they're gonna be people out there, say especially these heavily devout Christians. They're gonna tell you, oh, don't put your trust in any one man, only Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's true. But for those of you that haven't realized it yet, God put President Trump where he is right now for a reason. He's there for a reason. Okay, he's today's Cyrus. God doesn't put perfect people in certain positions. He puts people in positions to do perfect things. Okay? I want to get an amen off of that. Can I get an amen? Come on. Amen. So that's pretty much what. Oh, I wanted to talk about SNAP and EBT. Okay. in my opinion, we should have never, ever, ever had a SNAP/EBT program. Okay, because what that does is that teaches people to be lazy. If you look at most of the people that are on SNAP and EBT, oh man, I want to find the list. There's a list and it shows a graph. Okay, maybe I'll try to find it before we go off. I want to show you guys this graph. But the Afghan people are like number one that have those are the most EBT people. But it goes down the list, and the United States is third. You know, the United States white people are third from the bottom. United States black and Hispanic are much higher up the list. And I'm not saying this to be racist, okay, people. I don't look at color. I was never raised that way. But it makes it hard not to notice color when you see the people that are out there acting at their very worst. Okay, and I won't use the N word, not even for them. Okay, because that's just like the most derogatory thing. The people, I got to go back to we don't fight against flesh and blood people. We're fighting against spirits and principalities. Okay, we're in a spiritual war. So those people that we're seeing out there that we just want to punch them in the face and we want to beat the crap out of them, we want to put a bullet in their head or whatever. Those people are demonically oppressed and some are probably possessed. Most people are demonically oppressed due to things of doors that were left open throughout their life and probably through their generations. It's a generational thing, okay? So it's hard to do. Pray for your enemies, okay? There's a reason for that. Because remember when Jesus was dying on the cross and he said, Lord, forgive them for they know not what they do. Okay? Don't forget that. The people that are going to be going out and stealing, robbing, just trashing stores, they'll be doing jail time. They'll be taken care of. Okay, but what we need to do, we need to pray for them. Okay, we need to pray for them. Really, I'm serious. Um, but I'm not saying don't protect yourself. Okay, make sure that you're protected, head on a swivel, as I always say. But what is going to happen, and what's going to happen again, the military will get paid again on November 1st. They're getting paid because of tariffs and money that came in from donations. The same thing with SNAP EBT. That's why I don't think we should have a SNAP or EBT program. I think that what's going to happen with the tariffs that are coming in, everybody is going to have some kind of a stipend that we're going to get. Okay, you use it smartly. Don't don't go out and try to abuse it like you did SNAP and EBT, because you're only going to get a certain amount. And the thing is everybody's going to be equal. Everybody's going to get the same amount. Okay, I think tariffs are going to take care of all that stuff. How it gets disseminated out, we'll find that out later. Okay, but I think they might, at the very worst, they'll let it go for a few days or maybe a week. I don't think it'll go for a whole month because some people actually do need the food benefits. And then they'll say, well, go to a food pantry. Well, the food pantries are going to be the first places that are going to be empty. Okay. A couple, what was it? Probably about 3, 4, 5 days ago, Walmarts and Aldi's and other stores have had certain things in their stock taken and removed and taken to other places. For what, I don't know. I don't know what it was all about. But it's not every Aldi's and it's not every Walmart. But it's quite a few of them. I would say quite a few of them that are in the big cities, where we're going to see the worst of this stuff happen. But I don't think it's going to be let to go on for very long. It's going to be going on long enough for people to see what's going on. Okay, this is the hard part of waking up. Okay, guys, I'm not a good speaker in front of a bunch of people. I say what's on my mind, and I hope I got my point across. Um, the main thing that I'm getting at is look at things from 40,000 feet. Okay, when you hear of something or a series of things, zoom out, get out there, and look at what else is going on and what else could be affected for this. Okay, there's a reason for everything, and I want to say just as a last thing, um, pray for our president because he's doing all the right stuff, and we know that he's doing all the right stuff because we wouldn't have the left going so crazy right now. If you fell off the Trump train, you better ask for forgiveness and come back on, get back on. Admit, that's the thing. Admit your mistakes. Admit you made a mistake and apologize and get back on the train. All right? All right. Again, heads on a swivel, everybody. Be safe out there. Pray for your enemies. Pray for President Trump. We do not fight against flesh and blood. Our war is against spirits and principalities. Put on your full armor of God. Okay? God bless you all out there on the other side of the screen.